Hi, everybody. I am Estelle. I am the one who's been emailing you all year. I'm the president of the Computer Science Graduate Student Association. And I thought I'd record a video today to try to explain a little bit about the proposed amendment that I'm going to be asking you to vote on today, because we need input from the community to understand whether some of these ideas are actually good ideas. So I'm going to share my screen here. One second. All right, so hopefully now you can see the slides. So this is about a proposed amendment to the CSGSA Constitution. I prepared these slides and actually gave a preliminary version of this presentation to 14 CSGSA members about a week ago on April 24th to understand if this was a good idea or to get people's feedback and improve it before we presented it to the whole student body. So a little bit of context here first. CSGSA has traditionally and currently operated under a fairly standard leadership structure where we have a president, a vice president, secretary, treasurer. We also have some coordinators who are helping with various aspects of running the organization. For example, the grads coordinator is helping us to run the bi-weekly grads colloquia where we can speak with we can present to our colleagues preliminary versions of talks that we might be giving for example, prelim exams or conferences. We have a social coordinator who is helping to organize game nights and other types of social outings. We have a Slack coordinator to help us with running online contests and driving engagement on our new Slack channel. We also have a web coordinator who's helping us to build our website, which is going to be launched hopefully in a little bit later, maybe over the summer. We have committee representatives going to the diversity committees and the faculty recruiting committees in the department. And we've got some missed opportunities currently to be interacting with COGS more, which is a higher level graduate student organization across all the different programs at the U. So what we're proposing right now is that we move from the traditional structure to more of a shared leadership structure. So we'll be saving some of the positions, including president, treasurer, and the grads coordinator, but kind of flattening out responsibilities to be shared among some of the other CSGSA officers to make this a little bit more feasible to run as an organization. The reason we're proposing this departure is because we think that we'll actually be able to drive better engagement across the department and create more events that are going to enrich your quality of life as a grad student. But there's two specific components to that'll let us basically enable us to do this. So the first thing is that we want an annual calendar of events that's a little bit more formal than what we currently have, and we want to be sharing responsibilities across different officer roles. So I'll start off by talking about what this annual calendar events would look like. And you can, by the way, find all this information attached. I've written up documents to support this presentation. So we will be having we will be continuing to have our Friday coffee hour, which is, every single Friday, well, not right now during the pandemic, but usually on Fridays, we have free coffee and donuts for grad students. And this is a nice opportunity to just casually socialize with each other and make friends, talk about our work and what we're doing. Bi-weekly, we have the grad seminars I mentioned before. And I'll talk more about what these Fun Squad quote unquote mini meets are in a little bit later in this presentation. We're proposing that monthly we have the CSGSA meeting occur at a regular time on a monthly basis. We want to formalize in-person social events that they usually are supposed to happen about once a month, just to make it a little bit more regular. We want to have one online quote unquote Slacktivity per month to keep people engaged online as well, which is especially important right now during times when we can't be together in person. And we might also be adding a new coffee hour before or after the weekly colloquias, for example, on Monday, that have a little bit more of a research focus and which would be getting research faculty actually involved in engaging with the graduate students. In addition to these weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly events, we also wanted to propose a few semesterly events that might be a slightly larger scale. So, for example, we proposed having a department-wide barbecue or a picnic in the fall, which would be basically a fun way to just get to know new people in the program. It doesn't have a big research focus, but welcome the new students, celebrate being back on campus for the year. We've proposed to add one community service event per semester on a relatively formal basis. So this might be something out in the community. It could be related to computer science. It also might have nothing to do with computer science and just be an opportunity to do good in the world and to get to know our colleagues a little bit better. This year we tried to organize a few panels that ended up falling through because of the pandemic, but we think this is important for the future. So things like helping to transmit the wisdom from more senior PhD students and master students to the more junior members of our community. Or also information on, for example, if you're a master student and you wanted to switch to getting a PhD, it'd be really helpful to get insights from previous people who have gone through this process at the U. So introducing panels that would happen on a regular basis, supported by the CSGSA organization. In the spring semester, we proposed an event that we don't have a name for it yet, but some type of a luncheon that celebrates things that we care about as computer scientists. Provide people an opportunity to talk about high-level, big-picture issues that affect all of us in the community, as well as to acknowledge people for the service that they have been completing. So this might include the TA awards. It might include acknowledging CSGSA officers for the awesome work that they've done over the year. We also, in the spring, would want another community service event, as well as contributing to things that CSGSA has classically done, like the Prospective Student Visit Week and faculty recruiting events. Summer is an interesting one because a lot of us leave for the summer to do internships, but there's still a lot of us that stick around. And right now we just kind of have crickets in the summer. No one really does anything. And it might be nice, but maybe not a completely expected officer responsibility to also organize a few casual social events during the summer or to do another community service event during the summer. So that's basically it. This calendar is very similar to what we're already doing. It just kind of formalizes things and makes it a little bit more clear that this is the work that we're doing every year. Now, to support this formal calendar of events, we are also proposing a new shared leadership structure. So as I mentioned before, some of these positions are retained from the old organization structure, and the events coordinator position is actually a brand new one. This is basically, so like the events coordinating is replacing the social coordinator, VP, secretary, and Slack coordinator. And we could have anywhere from 3 to 5 of these new event coordinator positions. For the rest of this talk, though, I'm just gonna call it the fun squad because actually I think these positions are gonna be super fun to fill. In my role as president this year, I've definitely done some of the work of organizing some of the social events and some of the online Slack activities, and it's actually been a very collaborative endeavor, and I just have a really fun time throwing ideas around and then actually executing them with people in CSGSA. So we're just going to call it the fun squad for now. Okay, so the president role moving forward would be very similar to what we currently are doing, but just having the responsibilities outlined a little bit more clearly. So the high level responsibility is PR, communication, and strategy for the organization, help hosting some of the weekly recurring events like the coffee hour. But the main role of the president is to kind of hold people accountable to make sure that things are happening the way that they should be happening. So sending reminder emails and just checking in. The president basically needs to know everything that's happening, but not be too involved in the nitty-gritty specific logistical details to make stuff happen. But they're also communicating between all of the students and the department. For example, I've talked with Mats a bunch this year. It might be the case that in the future, the president is talking more with the DGS once we get a new DGS next year, which is a fairly likely thing. But also talking to the student body. So through weekly emails or, finding feedback mechanisms, ways to actually understand what's going on with you guys and elevating those issues in an anonymous way to people that can do something about it. The treasurer, we originally thought about getting rid of this position, but it turns out that if you have an actual budget, you need to have a point person who is going to coordinate with the department and some of the really nitty gritty, like how do we get the money from, this account into like a purchasing process. So this person would be coordinating budget proposals. They'd be the point person for training other officers on how to use the e-purchasing process. And they're also going to be potentially responsible for submitting grants and seeking external funding. So this role is going to be really awesome for somebody who likes money and likes figuring out how to make money move around and how to get more money. Really, really, really excellent practice if anybody is interested in either industry or faculty positions, because we always have to deal with these budgetary concerns. The grads coordinator, we're also suggesting that we should keep as it currently is, because it's a very specific role. It has a very clearly defined set of things that they do. So the grads coordinator at the beginning of the year, or the semester really, elicits speakers. So talk to your friends and figure out who wants to do a presentation. Order free food for grad students to come attend the talk. Send biweekly emails to announce the speakers and get people to come to the talk. Host the event, as well as record attendance and share the number of people who attended with the department, just as an accountability mechanism, so they understand, like, oh, we're buying this many pizzas for this many people who are coming to the event. So this is also a really fun one. You get to learn a lot about the different research that's happening in the department, and everybody loves you because you're giving them free food over lunch. So it's a really good practice service role. So now this is a new now position, the events coordinators or the fun squad leaders. So the idea behind this role is that we're going to have teamwork to plan and coordinate both in-person and online events. We're going to need a minimum of 3 people, but we could have up to 5. It's fairly flexible, and basically the more people we have, the smaller responsibility, or the smaller the number of events that each person would be primarily responsible for. The idea is that for each one of the events that are listed on that annual calendar of events, we have one person who is signed up as the primary event lead. So this means that the buck stops with that person. That person is ultimately responsible for making sure that everything happens. However, the way that CSGSA has operated has always been kind of a team thing. It just hasn't been very formal. So we also would assign a support lead, who is the person who's helping that primary event lead to make things happen in a way that's functional. Also just rolling ideas around off of each other. I've found that a lot of the events that I've been planning, it's like, oh, how do we make this a cool, interesting event that people actually want to come to? Or what would be a really fun online activity to do for the whole organization? It is very creative. It's quite a lot of fun. And it's a really good opportunity for figuring out how to make things happen within a system where there are constrained limits. It's going to be a really excellent analog for something like organizing a conference event, for example. So the reason that we're proposing these changes, why we think this might work, is because we already are collaborating on most of the events we're doing. It's more fun, actually, if you can work on different things instead of having to be just the same one thing over and over and over again all year long. And we could potentially develop stronger working relationships across CSGSA. So I've noticed that I tend to work more commonly with 1 or 2 other people. But if we had this kind of shared leadership structure and we're rotating around sharing some of the responsibilities, we actually might get to interact more with different people across the organization. There's also possibly going to be better incentives for participating. So knowing that you're not going to be completely alone, having some kind of big responsibility, I think is a really good way to make sure that it actually feels feasible and manageable to you. Also, before you ever sign up for the role, you have a very clear expectation of, like, what is going to go into this? How many hours can I expect to expend on this service? And it's much closer to academic service, or it's a closer resemblance to what academic service might look like in other contexts, like a conference, or even organizing an event for a company. One last thing that I'm going to note on here is that we also have been talking about the possibility of getting travel grants in exchange for service. So, or not directly in exchange, but basically if you serve as an officer of CSGSA, you could become eligible to receive a travel grant in the amount, something like $500 to $2,000. We haven't hammered out the numbers yet, but this would be after your year of service. You basically get this as some recognition for the hard work that you've put in. And it's a lot easier to figure out, or it's a lot easier to justify providing these types of grants if the labor is more spread out across the students in CSGSA, instead of just kind of being like, okay, well, you plan all the social events, you handle all of the, other large events that we want to be doing. It just makes more sense. So let me stop sharing the screen. Okay, so please, I'm about to send out the revised Constitution. I'm going to send out the document for the annual calendar of events. And whether or not you actually want to look at those, I've described all the main points, the nitty-gritty of the languages in those documents, obviously, for your reference. But please do vote on whether you think this is a good idea or a bad idea. I'd appreciate your support. Obviously, we've put a lot of time and thought into thinking about what we think is really going to support a more engaged department culture, and mostly just to have more fun and develop more relationships across the department instead of just maybe the people that you see every day in your research lab. If you have any other thoughts about this, please do send me an email at smit3694@umn.edu. Otherwise, I hope that you have a really wonderful end of your semester. Congratulations on getting it this far. I know it's been a crazy year, and definitely not ending the way that any of us probably ever would have expected, but I'm proud of all of you for what you're achieving, and I really look forward to seeing you again in person when we have the opportunity to do that. So start thinking about elections. We're going to be if any of these positions sounded interesting to you, you can self-nominate, or we're gonna be holding elections very soon for our officers for next year. So just put that idea in the back of your head. Okay, happy weekend. Thanks, guys. Bye.